Good evening, everyone. Father Gerald has given me very little time to discuss this, so it's really difficult. So I've actually shared a document on the WhatsApp group that is pretty useful, except the last part about nutrition, which is not accurate information. So, just a few points about this whole COVID pandemic. I think most of us are quite well informed, but there's certain things that I wanted to highlight during this discussion. One is that for us to remember that most people, like almost 80% of the people, recover like a cold. It's like a normal cold. They recover without any complications, and in India, the community spread has actually taken place because there are various ways of measuring that. It has actually taken place, but because the government has not yet acknowledged it, it is creating some amount of inconvenience and difficulty in how we are handling this. So if someone has, I think there are enough messages on how to protect oneself and how to prevent the infection. So today I'll just talk about, if in case you have been tested and you're found to be COVID positive, then what all can you do? So the first thing to do is not to panic, and remember that most people recover, most people do very well, and in fact there are many areas which don't have lab tests where they don't even know that they've had the infection. And suppose you are tested positive, the details from the lab will go straight to the government, like either to the BBMP or to the state government. So they will have a record and someone will call you. So I'm part of a team of doctors who are calling people, and they do something called a triaging. So basically they will assess how serious a patient is or a positive person is, and decide the care accordingly. So you could be completely asymptomatic or mild symptomatic or severe symptomatic. So what we have seen over the last few weeks is that even those who have no symptoms or who have mild symptoms have been in panic and rushed to the hospitals, and they've occupied all the beds. So if you see the hospitals, the ICUs, the beds, the most of the wards have been occupied, and this is creating a lot of complications and crisis for people who are seriously ill, whether they are COVID positive or COVID negative. So the important thing is not to panic, and through triaging, and also you can also decide if the people who can stay at home. There's two groups. One is if you're totally asymptomatic and you have no other comorbidities. I'll just describe briefly what comorbidities are. So if you are asymptomatic but you're positive, you can stay at home with certain precautions. If you're asymptomatic and positive, but you do not have the facilities to stay at home, like all of us don't have the luxury of having a separate room and a separate toilet, then you can go and shift to a COVID care center. So basically, COVID care centers is for asymptomatic people who cannot isolate at home. Now, what are the comorbidities? Comorbidities are people who are above 55 years. So they are at more risk. So we've seen that with COVID, the complications are much more serious if patients are older patients. If there's diabetes and hypertension, even that, if it is well controlled, the risk is also pretty low. But if the diabetes and hypertension is uncontrolled, then they are at little more risk. If they have immunocompromised disease, again, which is not controlled, like if someone is HIV positive but they've not been taking treatment regularly, their CD4 is low, they are at risk. Or people who have, say, kidney problems or liver problems, these are the people who are likely to go into complications. So if you're at home and you are asymptomatic, what all can you do? You can self-isolate. So basically, you stay in a room separately, you have a separate toilet, and as much as possible, you avoid contact with the other people in your house. Now, suppose the other people in your house are people who have comorbidities. So let's say a young person gets COVID positive, but they have an older parent at home who has comorbidities, then either this young person has to move to a center to protect the older person in their house, or the older person can move to another house, like maybe stay with another family member till this person is out of this period of self-isolation, which is usually 17 days. So 17 days is, during those 17 days, you should not get any other symptoms. So if you're completely asymptomatic, you can stay at home for 17 days. And after that 17 days, there's no need to go and again do a test to see if you're negative. Now, if you're at home, there are certain precautions you can do. One is to wear a mask as much as possible, even in the house. And if you're coughing or sneezing, try to do it either wearing a mask or into your elbow. Like you can use your elbow, but not your hands. And change the mask every 4 to 6 hours. And once you remove the mask, you soak it in sodium hypochlorite, that is 1%. So basically, you take about 7 grams of bleaching powder and you add it to 1 liter of water, and you can use that to disinfect your mask and also to wipe all the surfaces in your house. I mean, in the room where you're staying. And don't use this directly on the toilet seat, this bleaching powder. And don't use it on metal handles or metal surfaces, because that doesn't work there. Instead, there you can use alcohol-based sanitizer. And again, the usual precautions: wash your hands frequently, don't touch your face, and keep washing your hands frequently. And there should be one person who will care for you. So the caregiver also has to take certain precautions, like if you are in a room and they bring you food, and then once you eat, then they're collecting the vessels or the plate, then they should wear a glove. They should wear gloves. They can't just take your plate directly. They should wear gloves and take it. And once they've removed the gloves, they have to wash their hands. And the caregivers also have to monitor themselves regularly, their temperature, and to see if they're getting any breathing problems or any other symptoms, which means they themselves might have contracted the infection and will need some care. And in that situation, try to avoid sharing things like sharing cigarettes, or you drink half the juice and you give your caregiver half the juice, or vessels and all that. Avoid all those things. And even the people who are giving care for you should avoid going out. So if there's a person at home who's self-isolating, the caregiver also should avoid going out, and encourage other family members or neighbors to bring you groceries and other things which you need, other essentials. And the groceries have to be left for at least 6 to 7 hours without touching. So either they can leave it outside the house, or if it's not possible, just leave it inside your house for 6 to 7 hours, and then it can be touched to ensure that the virus is reduced on these surfaces, because they're coming from outside. They can also contain the virus, because virus is present on surfaces. And the thing is, it's important to remember, like initially the term used was social distancing, and many of us objected to it, because social distancing means you keep the person also away, and it leads to a lot of mental trauma. The important thing is, it's physical distancing, but you have to have an emotional relationship with the person, be in touch with them, keep them mentally stimulated, talk to them. All those things you can do. You don't have to reject the person. And it's important also to be concerned about the carer. Like, just because someone is sick, they sometimes play a sick role and they start bossing and bullying over the carers also go through a lot of stress. So it's important that carers as well as the positive people are supported. And if you live in an area that is someone has been detected positive, there's no need to panic, and definitely you should not discriminate or harass that person, because the person is sick. The person is not bad. And when they're sick, what you can do to protect yourself is, there are certain common areas like the lift, the knob on the lift, the staircase, the railing on the staircase. All the metal surfaces can be wiped twice a day, and the floor and other common areas can be swabbed with the same sodium hypochlorite, that is bleaching powder of 7 grams in 1 liter of water. Then you can double it if you're using more water. And mop these surfaces, that is common areas, regularly. And as neighbors, if you find out that someone is positive, definitely call them, keep in touch with them, keep them like mentally that they feel they're supported. You can give them groceries, you can give them other rations like milk and all, or medicines. It's important that people continue the medicines. And but make sure you don't exchange notes like across the door. And if you have to exchange something, then you can keep it for like 6 to 7 hours, and then you can touch it. So these are the basic things. And in the meantime, the I'll tell you what are the serious health conditions for which you have to absolutely on emergency seek care. And that is, if there's breathlessness, like the person is having a breathing rate of more than 30 per minute. So you just observe them and see how they're breathing, you count, and if it's more than 30 per minute, maybe they'll get nervous just because you're watching them. So see it like over a period of time, like 1 or 2 times. Or they are saying, complaining of tightness in their chest, or they're saying, I'm feeling a pain in my chest. Or a person who was talking to you normally is suddenly confused, they're disoriented. So you can ask them simple things like, what is this person's name, or what is your age, or which college do you go to. And if they are disoriented, then that is a danger sign. Definitely they have to go to hospital on an emergency basis. The other thing is, if their lips or face is turning bluish, that also means that their oxygen saturation has dropped. And a lot of people have got a pulse oximeter at home. If the oxygen saturation is dropping like less than 90, then definitely they have to go, because some people look perfectly normal with low oxygen saturation. They need to be in hospital. But till those things happen, please try to stay at home. Don't overcrowd the hospitals. And also importantly, a lot of people rush to private hospitals because it's clean, and they feel it suits their class or whatever. But I would say preferably go to a government hospital. Of course, the facilities are very bad, and that is what we have to push the government to improve our government facilities. But there, they're following a standard protocol, and the costs are not going to be exorbitant, because now private hospitals are charging anywhere between 40 to 50 to 60,000 per day. And it's not even like they're ensuring standard treatment protocol. So preferably use a government facility at this time. So that's all I have to say.